Wake up, wake up. It is February the 24th. It is Combine Week. We're going to talk a lot of Niners. There's a lot to get to. Purdy remains unsigned. The offseason is all in front of us. Let's go right here, right now.
Monday, February 24th. Welcome to Wake Up. Damon, Bruce, Larry Krueger. It is great to have you all here again, and it is our annual rite of passage, Larry. Every NFL team takes itself to Indianapolis. Every single sports writer this week in Indianapolis will make a reference to the spiciness of the cocktail sauce at St. Elmo's. It is the spiciest shrimp cocktail sauce you'll ever meet in your life. It's fantastic. When you're serving landlocked shrimp, you gotta have something spicy there. But it's a very, very important week. And as you said, Larry, it is all in front of not just the 49ers, it's all in front of everybody. It is dream big time. It is set your list of priorities time. It is who you going to dinner with this week time to find out. And Matt Barrows wrote a really good column that I think, I certainly suggest for, 49ers fans. It's a nice little primer for this week. And the 49ers got a lot of business to do in Indianapolis. Last week, we were getting the rumor, Larry, that Kyle Shanahan was going to go to Indianapolis, and now he's not going to Indianapolis. What happened there?
Well, I don't know. And it's just a matter, I'll say this. It's an absolute made-for-TV event at this point. Every aspect of this thing is now filmed. Now, it used to just be what you saw is what you saw, and the interviews weren't filmed. Now the interviews are filmed. So, you can sit there in your office with a clicker, and it's like you did go to the Combine. So, I'll say this about Kyle. We are in the lying season. We're in the lying season, right? And Kyle is a self-admitted poor liar. So, Kyle, sit this one out. We're in the lying season. Hey, you want Debo? We're not cutting him. Hey, you want Debo? We want a day 3 pick, an early day 3 pick, and maybe multiple picks, and maybe a player. You want to know what we think of Jake Moody? We love Jake Moody. You want to know this? You want to know that? Kyle's as a truth teller. So I kind of think it's a beneficial deal. Plus, the Niners are coming off of their best draft in years. He didn't go to the Combine last year, so why mix it up? And only Kyle could tell you, Damon, exactly what he feels like he gets out of the Combine. What does he get? Does he talk to people? Does he, so who knows? I mean, it seems like he also, does he, is it a situation where, you got to talk to your friends, and he's got a lot of friends in the league, and if he talks to his friends, he's going to give something away. So I have no problem with it. Then there's also the, is Kyle Shanahan a good drafter? I mean, the Niners under his regime have traded up for offensive players on day 1 and day 2. A list that includes Trey Lance, Dante Pettis, Joe Williams, C.J. Beathard, Jalen Hurd, and others, Trey Sermon. So they haven't necessarily hit on their offensive players on day 1 or day 2, and that makes you think that Kyle's feel for personnel is not nearly as good as his feel for play calling and sequencing and that kind of thing. So maybe it's in everybody's best interest just to let the scouts scout and let Kyle coach.
So there's a part of me that agrees with you. And look, I don't want to, retroactively, with hindsight being 2020, say, well, in a year that you didn't go to the Super Bowl, Kyle didn't go to the Combine, because there have been years where Kyle didn't go to the Combine and the team did go to the Super Bowl. So you can't correlate one with the other. But I do think that because Kyle also wears the hat of every decision goes across my desk, I'm also the general manager. This is my show. I think he needs to be there. And if he's worried about his, mouth writing checks that he can't cash, don't talk. You don't have to.
Do you know what percentage of NFL coaches go to the Combine?
I don't know what the percentage is, but to me, it should be 100% mandatory for any coach that is involved in personnel and front office decisions. That's the way I look at it. Kyle, it doesn't just live in the world of I'm an NFL coach. The whole operation is his. And I think that this is an important part of an evaluation for a franchise. I would prefer Kyle be there. If he is determined it's not important for him to be there, he clearly knows more about it than I do. But I'd want my entire franchise in Indianapolis if it were up to me. I would want everyone there.
But think about it. Think about it logically, though. I think what you're really saying is you want your 100% of your organization to be engaged in what's going on, the business at hand at the combine. And it's all available via video. I think what you want to do, though, as I said, it's the lying season. You want to close ranks. You want to make sure that your secrets don't get out. You know, a lot of people are doing interviewing and this and that, and the NFL's so incestual. You got people in the last year of their deal, and they're looking for where's their soft landing spot. And, it's just to me, I would, in a situation where you want to play your cards close to the vest, I like the fact that a good chunk of my organization is digesting the business of the combine, but not available to tell our secrets.
Exactly. Here's the thing. Media is not mandatory at this point, but I would like to see Kyle there for the interviews. Maybe Kyle spots something from a luxury box at Lucas
but he's going to see it.
That he likes, he'll still see it all. You're right.
He's going to see it all. I mean, if he wasn't, I would say this. If there was somebody who's like, hey, man, I'm going to be in Maui. No. This is way too important for you to be just disengaged. He's going to be engaged, but he's going to be engaged virtually. Well, and if you think he's going to tell secrets if you think there's a chance that he could tell secrets, or anybody could tell secrets, or just give away your game plan or anything that you're trying to get accomplished, I don't know. I mean, I would say there's good and bad reasons to go and to not go. I have no problem with him not going, because I don't think that this is where he's really good. I think Kyle Shanahan's a great play caller, a phenomenal offensive coach.
I mean, would it help him be better at it, I guess, is the question.
I don't know if I want him on it. I'd rather have him a little bit more leaning on my scouts.
What we do know is that proximity in the world of business no longer really matters quite like it used to. And you can work remotely in this case, for a lack of a better way of saying it. So again, I'm not going to throw any arrows into Kyle. Like one way or the other, it really doesn't bother me. Whether Kyle was at the combine or not isn't going to affect whether this team goes to a Super Bowl. You make the right draft picks, everyone won't even remember who was at the combine. So it's one of those. I feel like people are trying to set a table of outrage. Like, hey, if everything goes wrong, this is where we're going to begin our meal.
Well, I mean, if it guaranteed anything.
By the way, speaking of outrage, G.I. Jones is saying, whose elbow is this behind Damon? He's all freaked out. This is Ike. Ike sells sandwiches. He's a hell of a guy. Great sponsor. There you go. I can hope you can concentrate. He's like, I can't even concentrate on the show right now. Damon, you're performing under duress. He thought I had a bully standing behind me or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So there we go.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say it's much ado about nothing. I would want to be there just because I would want to see. There's a sight of football. There's a sound of football. And you might, as you just stated, you might glean something. And Kyle is so smart that I would want him there because I think he would glean something that maybe the scouts didn't glean. But if he doesn't think it's a good use of his time and he wants to do it all virtually, I'm also a big fan of let's close ranks and not give away any of our game plan, because I got to think the 49ers, they were knocked out of the playoffs. They've had a lot of time to have meetings and talk about their roster and talk about their plan, and I just get the feeling that they're going to come into free agency in the next phase here, March 12th, which is only a couple weeks away, with a plan. Yeah, I think they're gonna have a plan. I think they're gonna fire a decent shot in free agency in addition to getting Brock signed. So maybe they don't want to give away any of that. But to me, I'd rather have him there than not there. But it doesn't really matter as long as he's engaged. That's all I care about. The other questions of the week, though, and Barrows I think it was Barrows' article on the Niners, is who's John Lynch going to dinner with? It's like, is he going to dinner with Kyle Strongen and they're going to get the Purdy deal done like in the next week or two? Is he going to dinner with Kittle's agent? Is he going to get that deal done? Is there a certain draft prospect that they seem to be, around? I would say, if you made me guess who is the apple of their eye, I would say it's probably Mason Graham. The Niners need a defensive tackle. Here is a defensive tackle that's kind of an instructional video on how to play the position, and he's probably going to go in front of them, but not necessarily, because there's a lot of people that believe, and it's funny, I was reading a bunch about this weekend, a lot of people really believe that Mason Graham is going to struggle in some of the combine drills and that he's not going to ace the combine,
right.
That he's much more of a player. Champion. Yeah, that he's much more of a game day player than a workout guy, and that if he does struggle, he could push himself down. There's also talk this week that if some of the Shedeur Sanders and the Miami quarterback, Cam Ward. Yeah, besides those two, is there going to be a quarterback or two that kind of pushes themselves up? And there very well could be. And there's really a couple quarterbacks to really keep your eyes on this week. One of them is going to be Jalen Milroe from Alabama, who moves incredibly well, but he looked terrible at the Senior Bowl and like a fish out of water. A lot of people feel like he's a first-round pick talent-wise, but he didn't play like a first-round pick. And then
to me, just watching him, like my own two eyes, what the hell do I know? That's a day 3 pick.
Yeah, he doesn't look like a quarterback. I mean, like you might want to think of a position change. He looks so bad. I mean, but he also made some amazing plays for Alabama this year at times. So there's him.
I think Jackson Dart has the most to gain from a great combine of maybe any person at the combine.
Yeah, I think you're right on it. I mean, Jackson Dart, a lot of people feel, he started at SC, transferred to Ole Miss, had a really good year this year. Some people think that he's going to go in the top 10 because there's such a need at quarterback. And then the ultimate wild card in this thing, and I didn't realize he was the ultimate wild card until literally like this weekend. But this kid from Canada, Taylor Elgersma, everybody's always looking for the next Mahomes. This guy's 6'6", 215 pounds, and has an absolute gun. He didn't play college football. He played football in Canada's top league. He played for the Loria Blackhawks or something like that. But the guy's 6'6". He's smart. He's got a gun. He's athletic. He completed 73% of his passes this year, a high percentage. He is undoubtedly the quarterback wild card. And who knows? I mean, some people have him in the 7th round. He could work his way all the way up to the 2nd round. I mean, who knows? Maybe even the 1st. Supposedly, this guy is going to put on a show. Yeah.
Who's picking? Who's desperate? And who fell in love? This guy's got a big arm. I mean, if you saw a super raw Mahomes, or a raw Josh Allen, especially now with this being kind of a down year for quarterbacks. So he'll be a guy to watch for sure. But on the Niner note, Matty talks about a number of different things. Who's Lynch dining with? Do the Niners somehow get Dre Greenlaw back because of the higher cap? By the way, this is where you would love a head coach who were a good liar walking around the combine, because every single 49er fan should be hoping for as many quarterbacks to go in the top 10 as humanly possible, since you have the 11th pick. Like if Jackson Dart can join the top 10 conversation, the chances of you getting Mason Graham increase. If this kid from Canada, I mean, if I were Kyle, I'd be walking around. I'd just be like, look, man, we're not picking quarterback this year, but this kid from Canada, holy shit. That would be the right rumor to spread, a rumor that could benefit you. So that's the skullduggery of the combine that you choose to not participate in when you don't go. But yeah, Jackson, look, if you are a 49er fan, you either hope Jackson Dart falls in this combine and you can pick him up in the 4th or 5th as a maybe behind Brock, or you hope that he goes so bonkers in the combine that he plays himself legitimately into a top 10 pick. We know that Shedeur Sanders is not going to be working out. It's funny, man. I'm starting to hear the gears of the negative press start to work behind Shedeur Sanders for the first time. Like I read 2 or 3 different articles this weekend that had them say, NFL talent evaluators have him more of a, an early day 2, maybe top of the 3rd round talent, but just because he's Deion's kid, he's got that pedigree, he's got an awful lot of name recognition, and he's got some good tape too. Let's not pretend he's bad at this, but Sanders feels like the single biggest gamble to make in any high draft pick. If you're going to take Shedeur in the top 10, go with God, because that doesn't sound like it's a great pick. It could become it. Who knows? But man, I don't know.
A lot of people, this is a polarizing player. I mean, first of all, he's a great athlete. Okay, he's 6'2", 215, great athlete, threw for 4,000 plus yards this year, 37 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions, and he completed 74% of his passes. He had a 168.
He's had an NFL Hall of Fame voice in his ear his entire life. That has to count for something when you turn into a pro. It does. So
he's a great athlete, but I don't know. I saw them. Okay, give you an example. The last game he played, which was against BYU, they lost 36-14. He was 16 of 23 for 208 yards and 2 touchdowns. He completed almost 70% of his passes, but he also threw 2 picks and took 4 sacks. So, the game before that against Oklahoma State, he had a monster day. They won 52-0. He was 34 of 41 for 438 and 5 touchdowns, but he did throw a pick, and he did take 6 sacks. So he does hold the ball a lot, for sure. He took 42 sacks this year. He took 6 sacks against K-State, 6 sacks against Oak State, 5 sacks against Nebraska, 4 against BYU. I mean, he gets sacked quite a bit.
Is that him? Is that his offensive line? It's always a combination of both. It's never one thing, not the other. But yeah, that's a concerning stat.
But his receiver, his number 1 receiver, is the best player in the entire draft. So, Hunter is the best player in the draft. So there's no question that Sanders it's beauty in the eye of the beholder. Field Yates had him 6th overall, and he was like, "Hey man, that's cap. That's cap." He's like, I ain't going 6th overall. I think by the time the draft rolls around, he's going to be lucky to go 6th. But we'll see.
Wait, so Shedeur Sanders, he was insinuating that he would be upset being the 6th overall pick?
Oh yeah, he's super pissed. He thinks he's the best player in the draft and should go 1.
Well, that's a kind of swaggy confidence I love, but slow it down, kid.
It's great to be confident, that's for sure. But there's just work to be done there. There's development to be done, but he's got some great tools. I personally think Cam Ward is 5 times the player that Shedeur is, but
as do I.
But some people don't. Some people really like Shedeur.
When it comes to not throwing at the combine, again, it's not a sign of you think you're so great you don't need to. Caleb Williams didn't throw last year. Jaden Daniels didn't throw last year. Drake May didn't throw at the combine, so it's not unheard of to for a quarterback to do this. But Shedeur believes. Look at it this way: you believe you're a top 5 pick if you're saying, "Yeah, I'm a quarterback with hype behind me, and I'm not throwing at the combine."
This can be an interesting combine for the Niners, by the way. Look at all the quarterbacks, because the Niners have Brock Purdy, who they're trying to negotiate with, Tanner Mordecai. They're probably moving off of Brandon Allen. They're probably moving off of Josh Dobbs, and they may draft a quarterback. And who knows who they may draft. I'll tell you one quarterback to take a look at, and I think he's at the combine. Let me see. I've got the combine list here. Let me check the quarterbacks. Is this guy going? Yes, he is. Okay, so there's like 20 quarterbacks invited to the combine. Max Brosmer, Brady Cook, Jackson Dart, Quinn Ewers, Dylan Gabriel, Seth Hennigan, Will Howard, Riley Leonard, Kyle McCord, Graham Mertz, Jalen Milroe, Curtis Rourke, your guy from Indiana.
Keep an eye on that guy. I'm telling you.
Shador Sanders, Tyler Shugg, and Cam Ward. Those are the quarterbacks going to the combine. Just in doing kind of a deep dive this weekend on some of the prospects and some of the quarterbacks, Matt Barrows has got an interesting guy out there. He's like, Matt Barrows had the perfect fit for every Niner player or every Niner position. And he had the perfect fit for the Niners at quarterback in this draft, Dylan Gabriel, the former Oregon star, started at Central Florida, went to Oklahoma. The guy's been in college longer than we've been working as radio broadcasters. And this guy seriously has been in college forever. But the guy that I kind of like, the more I watched him, was Brady Cook, the quarterback from Missouri. 6'2", 215 pounds, Damon. Played in the best conference in college football, the SEC. Super experienced, 47-game starter.
That's
so he's
second best conference in college football, young man. Second
battle-tested.
Big Ten. Number
50 touchdowns, 15 picks. Really, really good runner. 4.45, 4.6 speed. Throws with anticipation, captain of the team, leader type, gamer, super competitive. Some people compare him to like an Andy Dalton. Tough as hell. Second winningest quarterback in Missouri history. Super committed kid. Got taken out on a stretcher in a game this year. Came back into the game and won the game. He's a St. Louis kid. He went 26-13 at Missouri, 20-5 over the last 2 years. Academic honor roll. Only the third guy to be an SEC scholar athlete in back-to-back years. Super gritty, MVP of the Music City Bowl, MVP of the Cotton Bowl. Over the last 2 seasons, 32 touchdowns, 8 picks. I kind of like Brady Cook. I don't know how much you've watched of Brady Cook, but he can run. He's about 6'2". He doesn't have a big arm. He's kind of like Brock. He doesn't have the biggest arm. But as far as 7th round, you're looking for a quarterback who may be able to make your roster. I kind of like Brady Cook.
Look, arm strength, it's one of those things you want as much of it as you can get, yet it's also probably the most overrated aspect of quarterback evaluation. What good is a great arm with rocks in your head? That doesn't do any good. So I don't know. I got to watch him. I honestly, like I've told you, of all SEC football teams, it feels like I've seen Missouri the least. So I will check that out. That's why I'm doing everything I can to. Not that I'm grinding film, but
20-5. You know enough about Missouri to know that 20-5 over the last 2 years playing in the SEC at Missouri, playing in the SEC. That's incredible. Now, if you're playing at Bama or Georgia or LSU, one of these teams that just wins and wins and wins. But Missouri's not one of those teams, and for him to go 20-5, now he's got a lot of help, right? He's got Luther Burden, he's got Membu, he's got some damn good players around him.
All the Missouri film grinding that I do in between playground trips and episodes of Bluey for the boys is I've been watching Armand Membu, and he is a player, man. That guy's he's a fire plug. He is good.
Yeah, really good.
I've been interested, but now I'm going to start concentrating on the quarterback. I'll look a little bit more. You know what I'd like you to do? I'm going to give you a homework assignment. Tell me what you think on either Wednesday or Friday show. Have you done a Curtis Rourke dive? Tell me what you think about this guy. I think he's got an NFL arm. I think he's got decision-making talent that you would want in the NFL. Again, can you be the boat that lifts the tide in Bloomington?
Here's my thought on the quarterbacks, just across the board, without not even looking at Rourke, is that I'm no longer really interested in any quarterback that doesn't have high-level movement ability. Just period. You got to be able to move. The athletes are too fast. The defensive ends used to be 275. They're 230. The linebackers used to be 245, 250 with a neck roll, are now 215, 220. There's more and more sacks every single season. A higher percentage of sacks are coming from safeties and corners than D tackles and D ends. Every year, that number gets more and more in the favor of the smaller players. So quarterbacks, I think, have to be able to move. You saw in that game against Green Bay.
By the way, so you're not going to like Rourke then? Because
yeah,
Rourke
no, I'm just
classic pocket quarterback.
He's a big kid with stature. I do like him as far as he throws a pretty good ball and he's got some good stature, but I just think that the athletes are too great on defense that you either have to be a great mover or a very good mover. And if you're not a very good mover, I'm more interested in like you'd have to be like an incredible pocket passer, and I don't see an incredible.
You better be
passer.
Dan Marino, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you can sit back there and just it's the laser show. Like there's this guy. I'll tell you one guy in this draft that's really going to be intriguing is Tyler Shugg, from Louisville, who's been in college for 7 years. He's 6'5", he's 225. This guy can totally rip it. I mean, this guy's just got a great arm. He's got stature and size and athleticism. He's not fast, but he can really rip it, and he's 6'5", 225, 230, and he throws a killer ball. Well, that guy doesn't move, but, I mean, basically everybody else has to be able to move around.
Right. By the way, Raider Trev, what the fuck is a fire plug? A fire hydrant. Sorry, I guess I use a more old-timey way of saying fire hydrant. What I mean is he's a smaller guy, but try to move him. You can't. Like he is as small of a tackle as you would ever draft. What allows him to get away with that? A staggering use of his own leverage when he blocks. I mean, this guy is a clinic on leverage. He's fast. His hand fighting is incredible, and his arms are the size of, of a 6'8" guy's arms, and he's not 6'8". So that's what I meant. He is a very powerful, stout, compactly packaged offensive tackle. I mean, you got to go see him. Like you read about him and you're like, well, why would you want to draft a small tackle? But then you go watch him. And then you're like, oh, maybe size doesn't matter as much when you got this much technique and this ability to get leverage on your opponents.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, first of all, what are we talking about? What position are we talking about? It's like the size absolutely does matter when it comes to, football players. But it's not everything.
It's not the end all be all, right?
Well, I mean, and it's what position are we talking about? It's like, that's another one. What position are we talking about? I want to share the screen because I put this up yesterday. Or last night, I believe. I think it's my last tweet. Yes, here it is. And I want to show you this one player who's going into the combine, my draft crush.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, this guy's amazing.
Who is it?
It's this guy, Willie Lampkin. Willie Lampkin, let's see, there we go. Willie Lampkin, first team All-American for North Carolina. He's a center, guard / fullback. This guy, Damon, he's unbelievable. He's 5'11", 285 pounds.
So you're telling me he can replace Brendel, Banks, and Juszczyk? Yeah, he can at 11. Get him.
I'm gonna read you a couple of the scouting report lines from this guy. Outstanding natural leverage, contact balance with good play strength, sticky run blocker who strains as hard as any belt blocker in the nation to finish blocks. Won the Florida 2A heavyweight state championship in wrestling as a senior. With a 47-0 record. He's a 5-year starter. He's got double-digit starts at left guard, right guard, and center. He's a leverage monster in the run game with a refined skill set and a keen understanding of how to stick on blocks. Overall, Lampkin has an unprecedented combination of size limitations and great tape that creates a difficult projection for the NFL. But he more than held his own in the ACC and in Mobile. Worst case, Lampkin can fit into a versatile move blocker role in the mold of Ravens fullback Pat Ricard, but checks enough boxes apart from size to compete for a job at center and as a rookie. I said the report says it all. At worst, Lampkin is potentially Ricard, who was the all-pro fullback in 2024. That's good enough for me. Niners need to draft. There he is, Willie Lampkin. Willie Lampkin.
They're giving him a first-round grade. Did they think he's gone?
No.
Okay. Well, then
he's a seventh rounder. He's a seventh rounder. He's
seventh
5'10". Sixth round, fifth, sixth, seventh. He's a day 3 center. I would draft him as a center and play him as a center, but I don't care if he can't play center. I mean, I'd play him at guard or I'd play him at fullback. I mean, this guy is just a monster.
Well, and you're going to need both, right? You're going to need both. You're going to
can't run the ball in the low red zone. So I don't want to hear anybody tell me no when you have Juice. He's a Pro Bowl fullback, and you can't run for a yard. You have Brendel. According to Forrester, he's a Pro Bowl center, which we all know that was a Pro Bowl alternate 4 years ago. And, they love Brendel. But you can't keep loving Brendel when you can't run in the reds on the goal line or in short yardage. You can't keep loving Juice and celebrating the jackets and all these things when you can't run in the red zone. What would you say you do here? They have to somehow upgrade their back, their fullback, their center, their guard.
I mean, not to mention, Kyle Juszczyk is too expensive. When in a year where you're going to have to trim some fat, to me, he's the guy that you say goodbye to. It's just that simple, and hold on, I want to look this up here. Let me see how many. Yeah,
this guy Callie Young says, I thought you wanted Guerendo at fullback, Larry. Do you see where I'm working here, Callie? I want them both at fullback. Guerendo, I agree with Damon wholeheartedly on this one. I think the Niners can't, in the Purdy era of getting paid, you can't pay a 34-year-old fullback who doesn't allow you to be dominant in short yardage. So, yeah, I'm replacing Juice, and on some fullback plays, like, you want to throw the ball out of the backfield, I'm throwing it to Guerendo, right? I'm not going to throw it to this offensive lineman from North Carolina. I'm going to throw it to Guerendo. But when it comes time to get down on, short yardage, I want Willie Lampkin and not Juszczyk as my lead blocker. Well, so I'll use Lampkin for all the tough stuff, and I'll use Guerendo for all the athletic stuff. There you go. There's my fullback combo. I've got Guerendo and Lampkin.
You got to look at you. You're going the Farhan route. You got a platoon.
I've got a platoon.
So here's this T-Dub, and I'm not trying to come down your tree, T-Dub, but he says, Juice runs the whole route tree. Willie Lampkin will never be a fullback in this offense. Kyle Juszczyk was a fullback in this offense. He had 19 catches in a year where they were desperate to throw the ball to anybody who was open and could catch it. He had 19 catches. So you can take that whole route tree and stuff it where the sun don't shine. That guy's hit 3 wheel routes in his entire fucking Niners career. And everyone's like, oh, he's this great receiver. He's a great receiver. He's good. He's very good. But he's also about to be 33. He's paid too much. He's a terrible blocker in the low red zone, like Larry and I have been saying for months now. It is goodbye to Kyle Juszczyk time. It's just the way it's going to go. Now, I wish that we lived in a world where there didn't have to be any NFL cap casualties, but there will be.
Well, first of all, this he runs the full tree. Don't tell me that Kyle Juszczyk is a better receiver than Guerendo, because he's not. Guerendo's a way better receiver than Kyle Juszczyk. And this awesome receiving fullback Juszczyk that runs the full tree averaged 11.8 receiving yards per game. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, let's
look at the difference, because they played the same number of games roughly. Juszczyk, 17 games. They targeted him 31 times. He caught 19 of them. Okay. Guerendo, 16 games. They targeted him 16 times. He caught 15 of them. Who's the better receiver? I'll take Guerendo. 15 of 16 is a whole lot better than 19 of 31. And Juszczyk had the key fumble late in the year as well. Not that Guerendo didn't
younger,
fumble.
lesser expensive, more productive guy every time in sports.
It's not like Kyle Juszczyk sucks or anything. I'm just saying the 49ers are going to be hugged up against the cap, and I think this is a creative way to replace Juszczyk. And the Niners don't really use Juszczyk that much. I mean, they really don't. I mean, as I said, he played 17 games. He had 19 catches. He played 17 games. He had how many carries do you think Juszczyk had? You go ahead. 17
maybe
games.
8,
5.
Okay, yeah.
And guess what he averaged in those 5 carries?
Well, I know he had one of the worst fumbles of the year.
But guess how many yards per carry he averaged in 5
He's a
5
ball
carries.
carrier. You can't give him the ball in the goal line or anywhere, really. He's a better receiver than he is a ball carrier.
1.5 yards per carry.
Yeah.
Garendo, by comparison, or no, I should say, forget 1.5 yards per carry. He averaged 1.5 yards per game. Yards per game rushing. Garendo averaged 26.3. I'm just saying the Garendo's a better athlete. Garendo's faster. And you can go look. Who's the all-pro fullback in the NFL? It's Patrick Ricard. Who's a converted offensive lineman. So that's where it's at. So all I'm saying is go get your converted offensive lineman. Guess who's good at running the ball for the most part? The Ravens. Okay? And guess who can't run the ball on the goal line? The 49ers. So you can't have an expensive fullback if you can't run the ball.
I just think it's real simple. If you held up both players and you just, silhouetted them, you didn't know what anybody's name was, but you just know, okay, this guy over here on this page did this. This guy over here on this page did this. This guy's about to be 33 years old and is a lot more expensive than this guy who's 24. What are we doing? What are we talking about? It's goodbye to Kyle Juszczyk time. That's just the way it's going to be. Mooney Ward, by the way, is going to be a cap casualty. I read this article. This is something that we've talked about for a while. USA Today, Tyler Dragon was trying to put possible free agents with their next teams, and he said this guy could be a really good Detroit Lion. He could bolster a secondary that dealt with some consistency issues a few years ago. They're going to want another leader in since they're losing half their coaching staff. Mooney Ward could be that for them. Mooney Ward is his respect around this league increased this season because of all he went through, and he returned to the field after the death of his daughter. That gets miles of respect, almost as much respect as, second team All-Pro and Pro Bowl nods a few years ago get the guy. It's a shame that the 49ers aren't going to be in a cap situation where they can keep Mooney Ward around, especially since the cap is going up so significantly. But
his
it looks
wife
like
said she's having PTSD, so it's like, anytime she's in California, he's moving on. I mean, I think everybody understands that at this point. There was a rumor this morning, and I don't know if it's a reputable account. It was like NFL Rumors, but one of the rumors from NFL Rumors this morning was that the 49ers are very interested in DJ Reed. So we'll see about that.
It's the Salatai.
Right. The only thing is DJ Reed may have already played his best football. That would be a concern that I would have, just because he did have a lot of penalties this last year. He's had a lot of penalties over the last 2 years. But you know what? Who cares? As long as you can get a good year or two out of him, DJ Reed, I think, is the kind of tenacious corner that I'd love to see the Niners add. Because you got Renardo and you got Demo. You're looking for somebody, who's going to get paid less than Mooney, obviously. And maybe DJ Reed is the answer. That would be a good free agent signing.
Have you seen, or do you buy the several teams interested in Debo columns that have come around? It feels like the 49ers took a small group of media members out to lunch or something, and it was like, hey, by the way, we're getting a lot of calls on Debo. Write about that for us, please. I don't know how much I really believe it. This is a guy who hasn't been an All-Pro since 2001. He just had a worst season of his career. He was out of shape. We all saw it. His attitude was bad. He choked his own long snapper. He's just career lows in every category. And maybe there's some team out there that thinks they can buy low on this guy. But the thing is, there is no buying low on him. The price point's locked in. So there's not a lot of value in Debo. There's certainly not a lot of production around Debo. Jeremy Fowler says, and I quote, "I was told that several teams have expressed interest." Again, I was told, not I learned. I was told. Somebody told you this because I think it's bullshit. There are complications.
Wait. It doesn't just because teams are, okay. So how does this get to the level of interest? What's interest? If I call and say, "Hey, what are you going to do with Debo?" Is that interest? Potentially from somebody else's perspective.
Qualifies is the call that says I'm interested.
I think a lot of people are sniffing around this player. Why? Because one, he's only 28. So if you're not watching the Niners every day, you look at 28, you say he's not old. And then you look at the Niners offensive line and you say that's not good. And then you could easily come to the conclusion, if you don't watch, that Debo hasn't lost it. He just needs a change of scenery, and he's operating behind a bad Niner line, because people look at chronological age. They trust chronological age. In reality, everybody who watches Niner football knows he's 32. He's 32, 33. He's run through people forever. That your career's short-lived when that happens. He's much older than his listed age.
I don't like the term washed. It gets applied way too liberally. And it's maybe a little bit of an overreach here, but Debo, if he isn't washed right now, he's certainly very sudsy. You are so much closer to the end with this guy. And again, we were talking about you could fool someone around football. Who in football isn't watching the Niners? If you watch the 49ers, if the casual fan sitting in Millbrae can be like, man, Debo ain't who he used to be, how could any single NFL team be getting excited about the prospects of adding this guy at his price with his wear and tear?
I just stated it. It's because he's not old, and it's because the Niners line is not well thought of.
Right.
So, anybody could look at him and go like, hey, man, you put him behind our line, and he'll be good. To
be a running back, joke's on you.
Well, here's the thing. I personally think that Debo has lost some motivation, put on some bad weight, and if he really wanted to get motivated and fired up, and I would imagine, going to a new team probably would do exactly that. I think he's probably got one good year. I wouldn't like if you told me Debo goes to some Ravens, Eagles, some good team, and plays behind a good line and has a good year. Would I be shocked? No, I wouldn't be shocked. But I think he's got one good year left, and I think he's got maybe 2 total years left. So I think he's going to find a home.
Okay, let's go with that premise. Why the hell aren't the 49ers just paying him and playing him in a walk year? Getting the best out of him. He's like that
because he lacks motivation. First of all, he's fractured his relationship, I think, a little bit with the Niners. The Niners have won and moved on, but also I think he lacks motivation here. I don't think he's in shape. I don't think, I think they're a little pissed off that he wasn't in shape. I think they know that he's regressed, and they're looking to move on. Yeah, they're not. Hey, believe me, I'm not delusional. I don't think they're going to get anything amazing, but it does sound like they would rather take a cap hit and get something than take a lesser cap hit and just waive them. So we'll see. There have been reports saying both, right? There are some people, Graziano, Barrows, and others are saying, hey, he's going to be waived. There's not going to be a trade. And then you have guys like Fowler saying, hey, there's some interest and this and that. So we'll find out soon enough. It's all going to happen in the next couple of weeks.
I'm just going with my own gut here. The team that trades for Debo, I think you're getting suckered. I would absolutely, if I were interested in Debo, I would be waiting for the 49ers to cut him before I would not be trading for Debo Samuel. And I don't think the player is of such value that I have to beat everybody else to the marketplace with the best trade that I can put in front of the 49ers. I think that this is a wait and see player who, if you can get him at your price, the way you want him, great. But I would not bend heaven and earth to go after Debo Samuel, and I certainly wouldn't get any draft capital up for him. If I were another team, I would not be trading for Debo. I think the Debo has got a lot of interest in him, are stories that the 49ers love seeing happen in the media, because I think there's a little bit more illusion than truth. It's just my hunch. I'm guessing. I have no inside knowledge.
Well, I mean, first of all, he's a one of one. So if you want what he brings to the table, he's like Kleenex, it's like he's his own brand. There is no secondary guy. And then there's guys like Sean Payton, who is looking for his Joker role. He's looking to try to fill that kind of pseudo hybrid role. And you may look at Debo and say he's perfect. You're not going to give a lot, as you said, because there's not a lot of value there. It's at the end of his contract. He's got a big contract. Why would you pay anything? Just because you feel like he's a one of one and you want to jump the line. I mean, that's really all it would be at this point.
To me, I wouldn't be very worried about the line. I just wouldn't be that worried about the line if I were trying to grab Debo Samuel. I would play the game of chicken and wait for the 49ers to just release him rather than trade for him. It's Combine Week. Like and subscribe. We're going to have great stuff through the Combine, obviously through free agency. Larry, I've got a very unique draft situation coming up that I'll tell you about at the end of this video today here. We get men in underwear working out. What do we got? We got medicals. We got measurements. We got photographs. We got interviews the first few days in Indianapolis. Workouts start on Thursday, Larry. Tune it into NFL Network for these workouts on Thursday. I know you're going to be riveted. I will be too. D-line linebackers Thursday. D-backs and tight ends on Friday. They save all the pretty boys for the big Saturday audience. Quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs go Saturday. Offensive linemen go on Sunday in Indianapolis for the Combine. What's your favorite Combine workout drill? What drill do you think reveals the most about a player's NFL value? Is it an athleticism drill, like a cone drill? Is it straight up, how much can you bench? What you press? 40?
Well, it's obviously, it's different things for different positions, sure. Right?
What's your favorite?
I mean, to me, the 40 is the 40. I mean, that's a big one. That's a big one. And when I say the 40, the inside the 40 is your 10-yard shuttle. That's really the big one, because that's really where you don't run 40 yards in the NFL. You run 10 yards. 10 yards and stop. So that the 10, to me, it's the 10-yard shuttle. I look at the 10-yard shuttle, especially for running backs. It's like, how quickly do you get to top speed? It's a quickness game. And then a lot of times I look at the quarterbacks, how they throw, and the receivers, how naturally they catch the ball. Are they fighting it? The guys who have absurd ball skills, it's like it's a magnet to their hand.
Right. Is it all in their hands? Are they catching it with their bodies or their arms?
It's just like, how effortless is it? And, how good is their form and their concentration and that kind of thing. Overall, I like to tape it and just kind of watch it organically. I don't, study it. Then I study the results at the end. But definitely looking for who can run. I would say in this, what do the 49ers really lack? They lack a lot of speed. They lack speed on both sides of the ball. They lack speed on defense, but they really lack speed on offense. There's going to be definitely some guys that I'll be looking for in this draft or in this combine. There is let me see if he's listed here. I don't think he is. So he was not invited. But two of the guys that I'll be absolutely looking at are, now the Niners have a real issue here. Their issue is they got a bunch of needs, and they're all pretty big needs if you want to win the Super Bowl next year, right? Let's just review it. You don't have a second quarterback. I really believe you need another dynamic running back. You probably need at least one, if not two, tight ends. And the biggest problem, you need a couple offensive linemen, whether they be starters now or development guys. Maybe you need a starter at left guard. You probably need a starter at defensive tackle. You definitely maybe use a starter opposite Bosa if Floyd's not coming back. You need a couple linebackers. You need a free safety. You need a corner. I mean, they need a kicker. They need a bunch of things.
Draft a kicker. If you draft a kicker, I swear to God, I will drive to Santa Clara and throw eggs at the war room.
But the big one is they got to have a receiver. They got to have a receiver. I mean, you're not winning the Super Bowl next year with Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, and Jacob Cowing. You're just not. You're not going to have Debo, and you're not going to have Ayuk for, I would say, at least half the year. So, you can't miss the playoffs next year. You just can't. Otherwise, things go really downhill.
Oh, people get fired. If they miss the playoffs next year, Kyle's fired.
Well, exactly. So I don't know if I agree with that, but he's on the hot seat for sure. And I will say this. So there's a couple receivers like that you just have to check out. One is Tedoroa McMillan from Arizona. Watching him in his film, this is Megatron.
Here's the thing, though.
He's Megatron. He's going to run in the 4.3s. He's 6'5". He's 210. He high points the ball and rips it away from you. His ball skills are crazy good. He's amazing. He's an amazing player. And the other one is Luther Burden. If the 49ers, they went wide receiver last year. They shouldn't have. They probably should have gone offensive line. But they went wide receiver. But just because you went wide receiver last year and you shouldn't have, doesn't mean you shouldn't go wide receiver this year.
At 11?
I'm telling you, Luther Burden is better than Debo Samuel. He does everything from Missouri that Debo did for the Niners. End arounds, screens, all the short stuff. And he's this tough-ass guy from East St. Louis. And he's just, you can't hit him without, he bounces right back up. I mean, it's like this, you're not intimidating this guy. This is kind of like a Juwan Jennings from the standpoint of he's a receiver that is going to be one of the toughest guys on your football team. He is tough as hell. And the more I watch Luther Burden, the more I'm like, I'm okay with the 49ers going Luther Burden or Tedoroa McMillan at 11. I am.
All right.
And if they want to trade back a couple spots and get an extra pick or two and then take those guys, inside the top 17 or something like that, that's fine. But it does not have – yes, do they need offensive line help? Yes. Do they need defensive line help? Yes. Do they have to pick an offensive or defensive lineman at 11? No, they do not. And Luther Burden and Tedoroa McMillan are game breakers. Unbelievable players.
I think it would be bordering. Hold on.
If those guys are there at 11, and there's no guarantee they will be, but if those guys are there at 11, I'd have a damn hard time passing on either one of those guys because you're not winning the Super Bowl next year. I can find defensive linemen in the third round. I'm not finding Luther Burden in the third round. I can find defensive linemen I can find offensive linemen in the third round. I'm not finding Tedoroa McMillan in the third round. So I'm just saying, at 11, if those two guys are on the board, we're gonna have to think about it.
From a supply and demand point of view, I get your argument. You're going to be able to get a really good. You're able to get a really good defensive lineman and offensive lineman later in the draft because it's a very line of scrimmage heavy draft.
Especially defensive line. There's many good defensive linemen. There's no reason to lunge at a defensive lineman at 11. But it's not even about that. I'm just saying it's about greatness.
Okay. If it's about greatness,
yeah,
then go watch the Super Bowl. And if your lesson coming away from that Super Bowl is I need a wide receiver at 11, you should be fired before you're on the clock at the next pick. I mean, this is trench warfare. This entire league is now trench warfare, and the 49ers have so much room to improve in their trench warfare, and I am a total believer that all greatness on football fields start from the inside out, not the outside in. I mean, if you're telling me it's Jerry Rice sitting there at 11, all right, we can talk about that. But
well, I'll say, you know who he is. You know who Luther
man.
Burden is. I went up with Teteroa McMillan. I think he's Megatron, and for Luther Burden, and I'm not the one who made this comparison. I saw a couple other people make this comparison, but I do think it's apropos. He's Malik Neighbors. If Malik Neighbors was in this draft at 11, would you take him? That's the question.
Well, knowing what I know now, that's a lot easier to do with hindsight. But
I'm just saying, if that was the premise, if somebody told you that Luther Burden was as good or better than Malik Neighbors, and you had that certain that assurance, would you take Luther Burden at 11, knowing you've got
over the same assurance that this next guy's Penei Sewell? I'd rather have Penei Sewell than Malik Neighbors.
Fair enough, but the Niners probably wouldn't even start Penei Sewell. They'd probably still start with Colton McKivitz. I mean, the Niners starting need at right away is probably going to be left guard and center, because that's, I want Brendel out. I don't think they do, but Banks a free agent, so you're going to have to find a left guard. So maybe left guard will be, or it could be a tackle that they can play at left guard for a year or two. I could see that, but
I
don't go position of need. You go for great players. Teteroa McMillan and Luther Burden are great players. Believe me, I'm not crazy. It's not like I'm sitting there going receiver. But if you really look, if you want to get your replacement for Debo, that is Luther Burden. And he would be an amazing replacement for Debo. And
I would much rather get a player who can play today and be Trent Williams' replacement than Debo's replacement. I think wide receiver.
You could be staring at two Missouri guys, Membu or Luther Burden. Personally, I love Membu, and I would take Luther Burden, just because Luther Burden is. I mean, I don't know how much you watch of him, but dynamic run after the catch, 2 steps and he's full speed. I don't know what he's going to run. That's going to be the big thing this week. If he runs a blistering 40. Some people are comparing him to Anquan Bolden. Anquan Bolden ran 4.7. But here's the other thing, Damon. It's like you got to look at these prospects not just as they are right now. You got to kind of back away and look at it from like the 10,000, get the macro view. And if you back away and get the macro view, Luther Burden was a legendary player coming out of high school. 5-star recruit by every major recruiting service.
I know the name.
East St. Louis High School, 20 touchdowns as a senior receiving, 21 punt returns, 8 touchdowns as a punt returner. The guy had 28 touchdowns as a senior in high school. They use him on screens, on jet sweeps, on hitches. And he's got a compact frame, but he's super explosive. He's got the long speed to get vertical. 2 steps, he's full throttle. He's a hyper elite stop and start guy. He's a super. I kind of look at him, Damon, as like an Allen Iverson. He's just like one of these guys that he's super tough, so strong, owns the middle of the field, playmaker. Tough, hard-nosed playmaker, takes a hit and can, just laughs it off. Elite body control, elite change of direction. 5'11", 210. So he's kind of built more like a Debo. He's not quite Debo, but he's faster than Debo. He's better than Debo. He's a better player than Debo Samuel. And that's why he's going to go higher than Debo went in the draft. So we'll see. All I'm saying is, do you want a really good offensive lineman, or do you want like one of the best receivers to come out and?
All right, but one of the best receivers to come out hits an NFL practice field and he ain't shit all the time. All the time. I don't think there's a bigger failure rate in terms of what you think you're going to get, the talent that you saw coming out of college, and then what you do as a pro than the position of wide receiver. It's brutal. It's awful. It's rough out
busts
there.
Everywhere. The Niners took Joshua Garnett in the second round.
I get it. I just, to me,
Quame Harris. I mean, you can pick a bust in any round for sure. There's no question.
Jenkins, Larry, we were there when it happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, but AJ Jenkins didn't do anything. You know, this
another reason.
This guy in 2022 had 8 touchdowns. In 2023, he's first team All SEC, caught 86 balls with 9 touchdowns. I mean, this is a great player. I mean, that's why he's going where he's going. And McMillan is, you know, there are people that think McMillan's going to run the 4.6s. If McMillan runs in the 4.6s, okay, then maybe he's overrated. But McMillan, Damon, at Arizona, when everybody and their brother knew they had to go to him, he still was awesome. And there, I think he's going to run from. I had this guy Ryan Fowler on from the Draft Network last week, and he said the reports I'm getting from Tetaroa McMillan's pre-combine workouts is that he's running in the 4.3s. He's 6'5", 210. This kid was born in Hawaii. He moved to L.A. What's amazing as a kid? What's amazing? He wound up at Arizona. He said, "How do you wind up at Arizona?" Fafita is how he wound up at Arizona. Noah Fafita was his high school quarterback, and they made beautiful music together. Fafita was older, even though he's still at Arizona. Fafita was like, "Dude, you got to come to Arizona." So he recruited him to Arizona. But this guy's got this kind of my ball attitude. His timing on the leaps. They say he's not going to have a big vertical. We'll see, but the unbelievable ball skills and a huge catch radius.
How about this?
They lined him up in the slot. They lined him up outside. He's a run after the catch guy, but the ball skills are off the charts.
The 49ers draft a wide receiver at 11 this year. That motherfucker better be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or I'll say this: he better be a Pro Bowler.
Right. Because
he better be like, that's the guy.
I could see Kyle getting a wide receiver at 11 and then giving him Jacob Cowing level of work. Okay. You know, Jacob Cowing. How many shows did we do about Jacob Cowing? Well,
no, Jacob Cowing's going to be fine. Let's not pick on Jacob Cowing. We don't need to do a drive-by on Jacob Cowing. He just needs to put on some weight. He's a very good player. He's going to be good. He's going to be fine. He's going to be
out of the league and not get a second NFL contract, Larry. We don't know yet.
But I mean, the guy runs in the 4.3s. He was productive at 2 colleges. He's fine. He's going to be fine. I'm not worried about Jacob Cowing. He needs to get a little stronger, needs to make an adjustment. I've talked to him. I think he's solid. But he's not Debo Samuel. He's not Ayuk in his prime. You're going up against the Eagles have Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert. You know, they have really good receivers. So, I mean, Detroit's got really good receivers. Green Bay is going to probably wind up getting Devontae Adams to go with their good young receivers. So there are good receivers in this thing. I just don't.
Devontae's going back to Green Bay now? Is that the rumor?
That's the talk. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Jacobs is trying to recruit him. But the issue here is that the Niners, Damon, and I really believe this, the Niners could go into this offseason, build up the defensive line, draft 4 or 5 defensive linemen, build up the offensive line, draft 2 or 3 offensive linemen. And if they come out of this, and lots of people could give them A grades. Oh, they built up their D-line. They built up their O-line. Okay. Do you really believe that Brock Purdy can win the Super Bowl with the weapons that he has right now? Because if they're
about to give him $60 million, they do.
Well, I don't necessarily think that's the case. I just think that we haven't seen this offseason unfold. We'll find out at the end of this offseason. But, I mean, I'll give you a sleeper guy that I saw this weekend that I just love. And he's a running back from Central Arkansas. He's not going to the combine. His name's but the Niners did meet with him. His name's Shunderick Powell. And he's a burner. I mean, he's a real vertical home run hitter. Day 3 pick because of Central Arkansas, and he's a smallish running back. But this guy, I don't know what his 40 is going to be, but it's fast. I mean, it's going to be probably 4.25, 4.28, something like that. Derek Powell. They met with him, running back for Central Arkansas. They need a game breaker somehow, some way. And maybe they can find one late in a guy like Derek Powell. But I'm pretty confident in saying that I don't see them winning the Super Bowl if they bring the exact same weapons back, because Ayuk's going to be diminished for sure, and he's probably only going to play half the year. So what if he misses half the year?
They could draft.
How are you going to make playoffs without him?
They could get Michael Irvin at 11. I don't see them making the Super Bowl if their defensive line and offensive line are a lot better than they were last year. So either way, no matter who you pick at 11, you haven't solved the entire problem. To me, all football problems need to be solved inside out. Wide receivers are the frosting on the cake. You need to bake your cake first if you're the 49ers. I'm a real big believer in that, and I hope that they are too. I hear you. There's some intrigue with a really fascinating electric player at 11. To me, it'd be a colossal mistake to think anything other than trench warfare in the second round. I am going offensive line, D-line, or D-line, O-line to start this draft unless a miracle falls to me. And you got Travis Hunter's there at 11? Well, let's fucking talk. Okay. But, it's not happening.
He's a corner. You can take a corner at 11?
Well, maybe if you're saying goodbye to, Cam Ward or Javarius Ward, corners are one of those positions that you can't have enough of them either. Corners are the defensive linemen of the secondary. You can't have enough of them. And it feels like the 49ers go through a lot of them. To me, it's got to be beef for dinner in the first round. That's just the way I'm looking at it. You find someone that you love that makes you feel different.
I'm not about that, because I'm about greatness. Why is Detroit beating you? They went Jahmyr Gibbs.
Offensively, they
went Jahmyr Gibbs in the first round.
In football, after they assembled the best offensive line in football, they went for Jahmyr Gibbs.
Get greatness. I don't care about offensive line. Get greatness. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what round you get offensive. The Niners got the best offensive lineman in the entire draft last year. They got him in the third round. You don't have to go offensive line in the first round. You just got to get greatness. You got to get great players. If you keep drafting great players, eventually you're going to be fine. But if you draft, you're gonna have a certain number of players on your roster. You're gonna have a certain number of offensive linemen, a certain number of defensive linemen. But ultimately, why are the Chiefs the Chiefs? Because of Mahomes, because of Kelsey, because of Pacheco. I believe. Chris Jones has been great. They've got a nice interior offensive line. I'm not saying you don't need one. Build one. But I just really believe that I can build one later. And I think the 49ers do too. And I think that's why they've passed on offensive linemen high in the past. We'll see. We'll see what happens in this draft. But, to me, the offensive tackle at 11, the offensive tackle at 11 might be a similar offensive tackle to the guy you're getting in the second round. Because I think the premier offensive tackles, Campbell and Banks, I think those guys probably go in front of them. And then it's a matter of, do you want to go with Membu? Well, maybe. But as I said,
again, the wide receiver that you get at 11 could be Dante Pettis, and Kyle hates him and doesn't even play him. I could see that.
Don't draft Dante Pettis at 11. Yeah, you can have a bust. Believe me, there's been a bust at every position in the NFL. So we could play that game all day. There can be a bust.
By the way,
any position can bust. So go find a great player. Don't tie. How do you wind up getting into a bad situation in the draft? You're trying to serve too many masters. Oh, well, I wanted to get this guy, but I wanted to get him at that value in this round. Screw all that. Go draft great players. Keep drafting great players. Don't worry about the position, because it's not. There's no guarantee that there's going to be a great safety in the draft that you need a safety.
Go draft great players is fantastic advice. It's also totally useless, because I'm not going to know whether or not you're a great player until you play.
But I'm just saying, go draft great players. I mean, yes, you're right. You're going to have to handicap this correctly, but I don't draft for need. Draft great players. Screw need. There's a million people in the world. You'll find another position. There is, unless you don't have a quarterback. Every other spot, go draft. Don't draft for need. Draft for the best player available. If you draft for need, you wind up with Ricky Pearsall. If you draft the best player available, you wind up with the best player available. I don't know any other way to say it. Yes, there's nobody that there's not going to be. It's not going to be ready-made answers for you where there's a group of players listed as great players. You're going to have to discern who the great players are. But the point is, there's multiple ways to do this. Sit there and see what great player falls to you and pick them, as opposed to, we decided we needed to get a wide receiver and, this was the best wide receiver on the board at the time. No, those are all excuses for why you didn't draft a great player.
Yeah, I didn't think they needed a wide receiver when they took Ricky Pearsall. Maybe he becomes something that is really useful down the road, but I don't think he's the heir apparent to Ayuk's injury or Debo's absence right now. You hope he is, because he's one of the options that you got. He's okay. He's all right. Well, maybe he's a lot better.
Not great. He's not a great player.
We'll find out. But I would have much rather had an offensive lineman or defensive lineman than a wide receiver last year. So there you go.
It is what it is. I was arguing for the kid Frazier out of West Virginia.
Yes.
He became the best rookie offensive lineman outside of Mooney, I believe, in the entire league. I think Frazier had the highest numbers. The interesting thing was, and you can't evaluate these things overnight. There were an awful lot of content creators that were taking the Niners out back and beating them up because they didn't draft Kingsley Sumateia, who went to Kansas City, because Sumateia looked great in the preseason, had some amazing highlights. He was the lowest graded offensive lineman of any of the rookies in all of football this year. And yet in September or August, whenever it was, people were like, dude, they blew it. They didn't get Sumateia or whatever. I mean, it's like, it didn't work out that way, but it's also not over, right? And maybe Sumateia will emerge as the greatest of all time.
By the way, the other story that's out there that doesn't, necessarily directly affect the 49ers, but could certainly affect what the 49ers do twice a year, is the Rams have given Matthew Stafford permission to seek a trade somewhere else. That's pretty surprising to me. I mean, I watched football last year, and the best thing about the Rams was Matthew Stafford in some of those games. Now, he opened his mouth at the end of the year, and he shared maybe, some things that you don't want to share. And he said, I'm thinking about maybe retiring, which makes teams start thinking, okay, is it time to move on? But man, Matthew Stafford looks like he's got 2, 3, 4 years of really good football still left in him. And I'm surprised that they are willing to say, yeah, we'll move on, when Stafford was at the center, along with a very impressive defense at the end of the year, of a lot of Rams success that I don't think anyone really thought that they were going to have. I'm surprised that they have told Matthew Stafford, go ahead, put a deal together, because unlike Camp Debo, that I don't know if they can really do that, Team Stafford is going to come back to the Rams with a deal. Someone's going to want him for sure.
For sure. But I mean, the talk is that the Rams wanted, or the Rams wanted the Giants' top 5 first-round pick. So that ain't happening. So if they're going to have an unrealistic ask, then he's not going anywhere. But yeah, I mean, look at the Rams. They're smart. They've already won their Super Bowl with Stafford, so it's mission accomplished. It's like they've already gotten their goal done, and if Stafford has a year or two left, they've got a young core, and I think there's a very good chance they move him. Why? Because look at this offseason. This is a very unique offseason. You could actually go hunt for a new starting quarterback if you believe in any of these guys. If you believe in Daniel Jones, he's out there. If you believe in Mac Jones, he's out there. If you believe in Zach Wilson, he's out there. If you believe in Justin Fields, he's out there. If you believe in Kirk Cousins, he's out there. If you believe in Aaron Rodgers, he's out there. I mean, all these guys are out there. Now, Stafford's worth more than them. So I think the Rams are like, hey, let's trade Stafford for 2 or 3 picks. Let's set ourselves up with a monster draft. We had a great draft last year. And if we want to go old, we can go bring in Cousins or Aaron Rodgers for 2 years. Are they Stafford at this point? Probably not, but they're reasonable facsimile. And maybe, McVay's got his eye on a young guy. People might look at Justin Fields, who was like 4-2 with the Steelers before he got benched, and say, you know what? We can coach him up. We can polish him up. We can get him right.
Jeff Spicoli, Larry. It's I can fix it.
Yeah. I
can fix it.
I mean, I guarantee you this. I will absolutely guarantee you this. One of these guys that's available right now is going to be damn good. And we're all going to be sitting there going, we should have. The same way people are saying about Baker, same way people are saying about Geno, the same way they're talking about Darnold. There's going to be somebody. I don't know if it's Zach Wilson, if it's Justin Fields, Mac Jones, Daniel Jones, Jameis Winston. I don't know who it is. Marcus Mariota. There's some young quarterback out there. I'll tell you right now, one guy that if it was my show, I'd call the Eagles every day and say, what do you want for Tanner McKee? Because Tanner McKee is 6'6", he's accurate, he's smart, he's young, he ain't never going to start there, and he's way better than a backup. So eventually they're gonna have to say goodbye to Tanner McKee.
I think with the injuries, though, with the injuries that Hurt has been dealing with, probably not going to come off of them. Plus, if you're still in your Super Bowl window, you want a really good young quarterback behind your really good young quarterback. I hear
they were
you.
Smart. They would take a pick and get down the road because they won't be able to re-sign this guy.
Probably
and
not.
You're just gonna kind of keep him from playing. But yeah, he's a great young talent. But if you're McVay may love Zach Wilson. He was the second pick in the draft like 3 years ago. He may look at him and go, hey, you know what? There's no future with Stafford. Let's sign Zach Wilson, go for broke. I'll say this. Les Snead and Sean McVay, they got a little riverboat gambler in them.
They do.
I would not be surprised if they said, you know what? See you, Stafford. Let's get a first-round pick, and we'll go sign Justin Fields. Or Russell Wilson or anybody, really. There's a bunch of guys out there.
So do you remember last year we tried to get together at the Dubliner to do a draft show, and then unfortunately the Wi-Fi didn't work, and so we had to go our own ways, and then we ended up doing stuff. I'm going to have a really interesting. We will not be getting together this draft season, Larry. I can guarantee that. Guess where I'm going to be?
Where are you going to be?
Tokyo. Jillian has a work trip. It's during the week of the NFL draft, and it's like I can go to Tokyo for the cost of an airplane ticket. I've never been. Fuck it. I'm going. I'm going to miss fish shows, by the way, at the Bill Graham. It's the same week. But I've always wanted to go to Tokyo. I'm fascinated by Japanese culture. I love ninjas and Shogun and all that shit very, very much my entire life. And so I'm going to Tokyo, and I don't know what the time difference is, but I'm going to be there live at 11, we're sitting from a hotel room. It's basically, this is Lost in Translation, except I'm Scarlett Johansson. In this version of Lost in Translation, I'm going to Tokyo during draft week. I cannot wait. Oh my God, I'm so excited. So while you'll be, I'm sure, doing a hell of a job with draft bios and player profiles, Larry, I'm going to be a guy in Tokyo, be like, look at this ramen. Hey, look at it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. I will miss you during draft week. We'll have to do a wake up at some point in time during draft week from Tokyo. So Plus Mania in Tokyo, Larry. It's going to be a good time.
Wait a second. Kenny Power says Japan is 25 hours ahead, Damon. You'll be able to reveal the picks ahead of time. There you go.
You want to know what the 49ers are going to do at 11? Well, watch my show on Saturday.
You want to know what the Niners are going to do on a Thursday night? Check with Damon on a Wednesday day. Just the odds he'll already have the answers.
It's I'm really looking forward to it, man. I cannot wait to see. Because here's the thing: I've been to Europe, and I haven't been to Spain, which is really other culture stuff. Or I've been to Amsterdam, been to Paris, been to Bruges, I've been to London. Totally different cultures and amazing cities, but it is still it's us, but older. It's all old white people shit. So it's really not another culture, even though it's definitively another culture. It's still all kind of, this is going to be my ultimate fish out of water experience of my life. I mean, I have never, ever, ever been somewhere as you ain't from around here as Tokyo. So I'm really looking forward to it, man. It's going to be an awful lot of fun. And
Ray says you should do videos on your trip.
I will. I will absolutely be putting. Look at it this way. I had to buy my plane ticket, but I'm also writing it off because it's going to create content, baby. It's work. It's work. And you know what's really going to be cool? The Yomiuri Giants are in town. I checked. They're not even selling tickets yet, but I am going to go to a baseball game in Japan, and I can't wait to see what the difference is in that. So, that'll be the thing that I'm singularly most familiar with in Japan. So, how much
go
different?
Go watch horse racing. I mean, the amount of money that they bet on horse racing in Japan is unbelievable. Unbelievable. They run the opposite way, I believe, as well.
I don't know.
Some of the greatest American stud horses have been bought by the Japanese investors, and like Sunday Silence, I believe, lives in Japan.
You remember Fusaichi Pegasus?
Fusaichi Pegasus. But I know they bought Sunday Silence, and you got to pay whatever the stud fee is to hook your horse up to Sunday Silence.
Anyways, today's not the show. It's still a few weeks before I go, but at some point in time, I'll need the Wake Up crowd to give me any and all Japanese tips that'll be happening on my channel too as we get ready for this. But Larry, I'm really excited about that. That's some personal news. Some bad news. Who had the worst weekend? This isn't me again. We're getting back to the NFL, but this is a name that 49ers fans will remember. And I don't think anybody had a worse weekend than Bronco linebacker coach Michael Wilhoite. He has been booked in the Denver downtown jail on suspicion of second-degree assault of a police officer. Wilhoite was booked on Sunday. He is scheduled to appear in court today. This is a 38-year-old. Again, he played 5 years in the NFL as an inside linebacker, mostly for the 49ers from 2012 through 2016. Larry, I'm not going to tell you that I got to know him well in any way, shape, or form, but pretty nice guy. Like, if you ask me, do you think Michael Wilhoite's going to be, arrested for possibly allegedly assaulting a police officer? I would have said, no, I wouldn't bet on that, but here it is. This is what happened. And since he's a former Niner, I thought that I would share that because I was a little surprised to see that one.
Yeah, I mean, I've interviewed Michael Wilhoite a bunch of times, and he was a really solid guy. So I'm sure there's some story behind this that adds more details. But yeah, our thoughts go out to him. Hopefully he's doing okay. And I don't know what that situation was. Did they give any details?
No, I don't have any details beyond the announcement of the arrest. But I look at it this way: he's appearing in court today, so somebody who covers the Denver Broncos will be revealing details a little bit later on today, I'm sure. What do we got in terms of supers, Larry? Let's
a couple more updates on the Niners. One, things to look for in Mobile is, is there any word on some, Kyle Shanahan will not be there, but John Lynch will be there. And there will be some news coming out, you would think, on the 49ers from Indianapolis. So one of the questions is what's the latest with Drake Jackson? Is he healthy or is he not? Maybe there'll be some rumblings coming out about Brock Purdy's contract. Do we get any indications this week when Lynch speaks about what this higher salary cap means for Dre Greenlaw and the pursuit of Greenlaw? Are the Niners going to tender Jordan Mason at a second round level or a third round level? Are they going to trade him? There's a lot of talk about that. And then, Jake Moody, what's his status? Last time we talked to Shanahan back in December, he was like, Jake's made of the right stuff and he's going to be here long term. But, he didn't kick the ball well down the stretch. He missed 3 of his last 4 field goal attempts and an extra point. He had an ugly onside kick in the final couple weeks. So his 70.6% field goal mark was one of the worst in the NFL. And are the Niners sticking with Jake Moody? There's a lot of talk that Jason Sanders, I should say, from Miami could be cut loose by the Dolphins. Are the Niners going to stick with Jake Moody, or are they going to, punt?
Here's what I would do, Larry. I not to jump in here, but Brant Boyer, put your eyes on him. Give us your report. New 49ers special teams coordinator. Because here's the deal. Does Moody have leg talent? Absolutely. That's not even debatable. He's got a huge leg. Is this someone to further invest in? Is he ripped apart, mentally weak, and doesn't want to stick around the 49ers because he's already seeing ghosts at Levi's around this team? Is there something there? Brett Boyer, do you think you can work with this guy? Do you think you can turn him into someone who's going to the Pro Bowl? If you do, we've invested in him so much already. I guess there's a reason to keep him around. But if you don't, like if Boyer looks at him and goes, no, then yeah, they got to run from him.
So, how Brant Boyer feels about the kicker will be one. Also, Josh Simmons, Mel Kiper and Field Yates said that Josh Simmons, the Ohio State offensive tackle, who a lot of people project going to the Niners at 11, that he would have gone like top 3 or top 4 if he hadn't been hurt earlier this year. So are we going to get any update on the physical status of Josh Simmons and the injury that kept him out? Yeah, I think the other major news of the week is, are the Niners going to, be more in or out on some of these big name defensive linemen? Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, Joey Bosa, some of these guys that are out there, and I think maybe even guys that we don't even envision who might be traded. Are the Niners going to get involved at this, for these high-end, big-name defensive linemen? That's going to be something to watch.
I'm calling no across the board. Maybe they prove me wrong. I think all of those guys are intriguing players with reasons to add, but price points that are so preventative from it happening when, like you say, if you need a 15-man draft class, what you're saying is we have an awful lot to deal with here. And I want the 49ers to be defined by their depth in this upcoming season across the trenches, not one really good player who the minute he's hurt, now you're just trying to spackle it all back together. So Crosby, no. First of all, Mark Davis's dead body. Is Max Crosby ever going to be a 49er? So just that should
another name that nobody's talked about, but there's a lot of talk in New York that they could decide to move him, is Quinnen Williams, who was obviously with Robert Saleh with the Jets. And, if the Niners want to make a big play for a defensive lineman, will they make a big play for Quinnen Williams?
That guy is someone that you stop and have a meeting about him for sure.
Yeah. So there's a lot of questions coming out of the going into the combine for sure.
It's going to be awesome, Larry. This is going to be a really fun offseason. I think we're going to have a ton of fun building up towards the combine and the draft and free agency, which I think the 49ers should be standing on Drew Dahlman's porch at midnight at free agency. I really believe that.
Well, there's also talk that he might get $30 million. So that you may want to have a plan
there will be
B
no
there.
$30 million a year center.
Well, there's a lot of talk that he's going to make big money. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
He might have priced himself out. If Drew Dahlman's making 30 at center, left tackles are now $50 million positions.
Well, he's going to make big money from what I'm reading. Joseph Ernberg says there or not the picks are still going to the picks are still going to be busts.
No matter what, just Joseph's positivity and his sunshine saying no matter what the Niners do, the minute they touch it, it dies.
Joseph says keep Debo and make him our new center.
Just put the weight on him.
Joseph says Kyle can miss playoffs 4 more times before he's on the hot seat.
No, this is the year. This is it.
No, I would say I don't think it's this year, but I do think it's more like half that. He's probably got 2 years. Fuji Simmons' thoughts on a massive salary cap increase, streaming and gambling resulting in massive salary cap increases going forward. Well, I think you're going to see revenue continue to dominate. The NFL's it. The NFL is the most compelling form of entertainment on the globe, and there is no end to how popular it can get. And they invent new revenue streams all the time. So as far as they said it was going up 20 million and it's going to go up close to 30 million. So that just means that there's a little bit more wiggle room, but in reality, it's all relative, right? It's going up the same amount for everybody. So, but it will enable teams to make a few more moves than they thought they were going to be able to make because it is going up 30 instead of 20.
And look, if the Niners really do sell off 10% of their frickin' team to a private investor for $1 billion, well, then their franchise is worth $10 billion. And if the Niners are worth $10 billion, then the Cowboys, by definition, have to be worth 14. And, it's just the entire league is about to add a third of the value of franchises to the value of franchises in just this simple 10% sell-off transaction. They are printing their own money. So the entire league, between streaming and the bidding and the new broadcast deals and media and all the attention that comes with it, plus the 10% sell-offs, which is going to become common business for every single NFL team. The money's going to be too good to not do it. This league is about to, I bet you that the salary cap goes up 30 million next year as well. And then maybe 50 million the year after that. The league is so awash with money that money should be no longer a prohibitive restriction on roster construction. I'm not saying it should be an uncapped league. The cap keeps everything competitive, but that cap should allow all players to remain on teams that want to keep them.
Fuji Siemens says soon all future NFL games will only stream via Amazon or Sunday Ticket, and to watch will cost at least $1,000 or $2,000 a year.
You pay
LOL, and people will pay it.
You pay it.
They will, but I'll say this: they ought to be very, very careful because the 12-year-old is the consumer of tomorrow, and the 12-year-old is very fickle. And yes. You've got generations intrigued, but, all it takes is to make it, you put it behind a paywall, people forget it, they find other things to go to.
Here's the thing. Does the 12-year-old daddy have Amazon? Because your daddy's in charge of the TV on Sunday anyway, so what the 12-year-old wants to watch doesn't matter. Daddy's watching football. That's why you grew up a football fan. You didn't care that daddy was watching football on NBC. You didn't care.
Yeah, but it's
$100 to do that.
Ask baseball. When you're no longer relevant with the 12-year-old, you got a problem.
Yeah.
You got a problem.
Well, did you see baseball?
And when you have that problem, it's a harder thing to reverse that problem than it is to, just keep it going. So keep it going. I mean, put yourself in mainstream. The NBA is just totally lost so much of its audience. And it's hilarious listening to people like Fitz, all these people saying about the NBA All-Star. Yeah, all these people saying the NBA All-Star thing sucked because the NBA All-Star thing sucked.
It did.
And all these people talking about the shitty ratings of the NBA, it's because the NBA has shitty ratings. So instead of blaming all the people reacting, how about take a little responsibility for your own league crapping? It's, crapping down its leg. All this we suck and you're noticing. How dare you notice? Chris Olig should trade down a little more and get another second. Yep, I agree. Fuji Simeon, stock up on Godzilla stuff, Damon. Enjoy Japan.
I'm going to put these stickers everywhere in Japan and be arrested immediately.
Fuji Simeon, no tipping in Japan, Damon. Be careful of cat or raccoon cafes. Try the Chinese food in Japan. Big Chinatowns in Tokyo metropolitan area.
Here's the thing. I'm all about, if you're telling me that this place right here serves the best, what is it, teppanyaki is when they do the grilled meats. If this place has been open for 200 years in Japan, I don't care if they're serving raccoon. I'll go eat the fucking raccoon. I'll go eat it. I'm an adventurous eater. Street meats don't scare me. I'm there to play ball. I think we're going to go to Osaka. We're going to go to Kyoto. We're going to do a little Kobe beef extravaganza.
Kids coming?
Huh?
Boys coming?
No, it's just me and Jillian. So we got the grandparents to cover. It's going to be just me and Jillian. Yeah, we wouldn't bring the boys to Tokyo. That would be sensory overload.
Fuji Simeon, just heard John Shea left the San Francisco Chronicle.
He's at the Standard now. The Standard's putting together quite an athletic department with Kawakami and Lombardi and now John Shea. So Standard's coming.
Yeah, I mean, the Chronicle is the circulation is just nobody's reading it. That's the problem. Fuji Simeon says dilemma for the next generation: spend the money to stream NFL games or OnlyFans. That is awesome. Okay, couple last thoughts before we get out of here. What'd you think of the opening weekend of Giants spring training?
Didn't see much. I saw the Eldridge bomb, and he absolutely hit the daylights out of that ball. But yeah, I've not leaned into the Giants. It's like spring training came with very little fanfare in my house. It used to be something that I cared deeply about. Now I almost have no concern about it at all. And that is a reflection of baseball losing a fan. I mean, not that I'm out. I still love baseball, but day one Giants. Yeah, who gives a fuck? Call me when it's opening day.
Giants Saturday won 6-1. And Eldridge went deep in the game, and Grant McCray went deep. That was good to see. Eldridge hit a bomb. It was like 450. 450. Yeah.
It was an
2 shutout for Landon Roop. That was impressive. So that's kind of what stood out on Saturday. And then on Sunday, so the Giants won on Saturday, and the Giants won on Sunday as well. On Sunday,
Iguodala got his number retired. I thought that the Warriors did a good job with that ceremony. This is the rare number retirement. By the way, this is what I'm talking about is my main topic at 11 over on the Plus. Like, Andre Iguodala meant more to the Warriors than he did the Warriors fans. Like, Andre Iguodala got his number retired because Steph, Draymond, and Clay thought that he should have his number retired. I don't know how many fans thought Iguodala has got to have that number go up to the rafters. But he meant so much to them that's why it happened. There are very few numbers in rafters with fewer career accolades than Iguodala has. But boy, did he mean so much to the Golden State Warriors. He helped their mindset. He was a Svengali for them. He was the guy that they leaned on to for career advice, basketball advice, defensive advice, how to steal a basket. I mean, Iguodala, his offensive numbers were never that great, but that didn't matter because defensively he had the fastest hands in the NBA. He's a player that only a true basketball aficionado could appreciate. And he was at his peak of aficionado appreciation with the Warriors. Congratulations on the number retirement for Andre Iguodala. He's one of the real ones in a league.
He's a good player. I don't know if he's a great player, but he's a good player. He was a good player. He was incredible though because he was a player that came into the league that existed a lot on his athleticism, and he had crazy athleticism leaving Arizona, and then he evolved and he became more of a cerebral player and really. And the Warriors, by the way, another win last night, 126-102 over Dallas.
5-1 with Jimmy, 5-1 with buckets.
Well, I mean, it's so obvious what Jimmy does. I mean, he gets to the line.
Have you seen this thing?
He got to the line 8 times. Nobody else got to the line more than 4. And he made all 8 of his free throws. So he is exactly, he filled in and gives them what they don't have, which is toughness and the ability. When he gets to the line throughout the course of the game, it just keeps the Warriors closer because it's just ready-made points. He's just standing there at the line.
It sounds like a stupid thing that you read on Twitter, but there is truth to it. More than any other league, more than any other sport, basketball is about vibes. The Warriors got the best vibes around them right now since they walked off the court champions in Boston. Like this is the Warriors are grooving in the right direction for the first time in a long time. I will give them that. I don't know where it goes. I don't know where it ends, but the feeling around the Warriors is really right now. They're enjoying it.
Draymond's guaranteed a championship.
Draymond guarantees a lot of things.
How about that, though? How about that? A championship. It would be amazing if I'll say this, it's night and day. It's night and day. Buddy Hield yesterday was plus 19 in 18 minutes, and he only took 3 threes and only made 1. He only scored 3 points, but he was plus 19, one of the best plus minuses for the Warriors. So,
Podziemski, Iguodala.
Podziemski's playing great. Podziemski's 3-point shot is totally, it's night and day compared to early in the year. Early in the year,
good minutes, and he's rewarding them with good play. I'm happy to see Moody playing well, and Podziemski.
Small team, though, man. Their starting lineup last night was Podziemski, Moody, Curry, Butler, and Draymond.
Yeah.
But I'll say this, the guy that I'm really enjoying is Quentin Post. Quentin Post is got some fire. He played 18 minutes yesterday. He had 10 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal. And that's pretty damn good, man.
Yeah.
In 18 minutes for a rookie center. And he's not a stiff. He plays with some juice. He plays with some emotion. Between the feel good, Trace Jackson Davis, I guess, was sick, so he didn't play yesterday. But, what they've done with this roster, Peyton off the bench gives you D. Hield gives you O. Post is an intriguing player. Guy Santos in 20 minutes had 5 points, but 8 rebounds and 2 block shots. He's like Mr. High Energy. Kevin Knox is giving them some good minutes.
13 rebounds last night.
What's that?
Podziemski had 13 rebounds last night, I think.
Podziemski's one of the best rebounders in the league as for a guard. It's amazing. So Moody started. That was good to see. He had double figures. So, the Warriors vibe and feel good is going amazing. How's Kuminga? Well, and they're waiting on Kuminga.
Yeah.
If Kuminga comes back and plays great, maybe they can win a title. It's shocking. That's shocking. Okay, we got that one. We got having this one. You don't eat the raccoon there. There are live raccoons and cats in the cafes.
I will eat raccoon in Japan.
Jeez, that sounds awful. All right, bro. That's going to do it for us.
I'm not eat raccoon anywhere. I'm a little bit more interested in the vegan options. I normally when I sit down for a little teppanyaki, I say, no raccoon over here, please. And me and Tate, we eat the zucchini.
Someone says, Post came out of nowhere. The Warriors are gelling right now. I hope Kuminga will fit in. Oh, he'll fit in.
Better.
All right, that does it for us. What do you got cooking the rest of the day?
We're getting into Andre Iguodala over on the Plus and what he's meant to the Warriors, and take a look at what their next handful of games looks like. They got one more game at home, then they go out for a 5-game East Coast trip. So we're going to kind of go through that with a fine-tooth comb, and we got some other stuff. Like I said, we Kuminga around the corner, good vibes around the team. Warriors just signed a 2-way guy named Taran Armstrong from freaking Australia. Who's
pretty good. I actually looked at him. He's pretty good. You know what he is? He's an amazing passer. This guy is going to be, I don't know what he's going to be, but he can pass. He can absolutely set up his teammates. I've saw him with some of the most amazing passes I've seen in a long time, like behind the back and blind passes on the break. And he can pass. He can pass. It'll be interesting to see.
There's also it looks like there's some serious trouble brewing down at Fresno State with a gambling scandal that looks like it's about to explode. So we'll talk a little bit about that and, of course, some football, because if you're not talking football on any show on YouTube about sports, you're shooting yourself in the foot. So there'll be a little of that as well. And we will never waste your time over on the Plus. So I hope to see everyone there at 11 o'clock.
I got a couple videos coming out later today. I'll be streaming with Cone, I think probably later this afternoon at 6. Catch me on KMBR for Niners Nightly. And our guest tonight will be Matt Barrows, who wrote a very interesting piece talking about what he thinks are the 49ers' favorite players at every single position. So we'll talk about that tonight. He'll be by around 6:15, so looking forward to that. And then after that, you never know. I think sometimes Monday nights I've streamed with John Lund, so we may stream Monday night, so we'll see. But that's going to do it for us. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krueger Show. Thanks to Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles as well. Thanks to all of you. Have a great day. Peace.